And round 1 immediately starts. We would like to play first. We have a 2-mana hand with a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop martial law. That's pretty good. Even if we don't draw the third land immediately, we are going to be on our way to put some pressure on our opponent as planned. Here it wouldn't be great to draw one of the guild gates, but that's always a possibility. Looks like we're playing against Rakdos, so we probably want to play a bit more defensively, but that shouldn't be a problem with our hand. Now I am going to attack here because I have a free block with the Herald. And the Rakdos decks actually play quite a bit of enchantments at sometimes. Especially Stab Wound can be very problematic, so I think it's important to get rid of that. And the Centaur is gone immediately. And he has a 1/1. Okay. Sadly, we didn't draw the second planes, and now, while we wait for it, we have quite a lot of draws that will come into play tapped, so that's a bad thing. But Set of Songbirds is good, of course. I think we just don't attack here anymore. There's really no reason to. I'm going to block. Like I said, it's important to have some creatures in play because of our combat tricks, but that doesn't mean that we are never going to block. Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage with Populate, okay. That's of course good, but he might have an answer immediately. Our bird isn't going to block because we drew the Guildmage, and it wasn't going to block anyway, so I can attack for 1. And now that we have drawn the Guildmage, it's also reasonable to play out more lands. That does give him the option or the knowledge that we do have 4 mana, but if we are only copying birds, it's actually not that strong. So this is a card that we could start blocking with birds, but I'm going to block with the with the Cellar immediately. So let's see if we can untap with the Guildmage. No, we can't. And that's one of the worst combat tricks we could have drawn, for pretty obvious reasons. Now, I think I'm just going to try to block Slitherhead with the Chorus of Might. As bad as it sounds, we are almost down to 0 cards. It's not like I'm losing that much if he has something, because, well, my bird wasn't doing much anyway. And that's not a plains, but it does detain the Thug for 1 round. Looks like he has one of the haste guys in these colors. And let's take the damage now. See what we draw. We drew the plains. That's a good start, of course. And Martial Law is going to help us, but there is a problem that it's going to need 1 turn to get active. So I think next turn we just chump block this with the bird. Next turn we Martial Law, Splatter Thug, and then we try to double block the Crasher with the Arrestor and the Sunspire Griffin. The alternative would be to play Griffin now, but then we are probably never going to get the chance to play martial law. Now we might just still die here to something like 5 damage to us, but that's the out I see here. I could drop Volatile Rig here, but that sounds awfully dangerous. The thing is, otherwise I will have to double block the Crasher with Arrestor and Griffin, which doesn't sound too amazing anyway. This might actually get me back into the game if he doesn't have anything at all. Now if he doesn't have anything, then I would also be allowed to attack for 2 with the Arrestor. I think I'll just try it. It's very likely that I'm dying to several spells here, but it doesn't look like playing this on 5 life is much worse than not playing it at all. And if it does deal 4 to us, then the board is clear, and I don't know what's happening here. I'm just clicking yes, and then okay, I think nothing happened. No damage was dealt, which is okay. I get to keep my 2/1, and my martial law has the Splatter Thug under control. I'm still going to continue attacking, which is bad if he has a haste creature, but which is very important if he has Explosive Impact for 6 mana in his deck. Let's see, he's on 12 and I can attack for 4, drop Call of the Conclave, keep Common Bond up and kill him next turn. That sounds like a plan. Okay, it looks like we are dead. No, we aren't. He needed to deal damage to us so that he could cast Rakdos. And if this had exploded, we would probably be dead 3 times because he had the fire and maybe even the Rakdos. That's crazy. And that was game. Wow. Let's see what we can do there. Swift Justice, much better than the Chorus of Might we were playing before, pretty obviously. I also don't think that this is a card we really want to have against him. Yeah, we do need to seriously consider our options here. Playing more of a defensive game next. The early game is where it's at, of course. The question is how much of a danger this is. I really like it because you get the efficient creature and they don't. But it is a reliability. So I'm not too sure if we really want it still. I don't want to cut it either. It's just so good. 4 mana, 4/4, and yeah, it has a disadvantage, but it's also one of our better creatures. Usually I would also board in this, even though it's a 3rd 6-drop. Once you get started with your late game, it's a pretty good card. I have 2 options to deal with Rakdos. I can try to prevent him from dealing damage to me at all, or I can board in Aerial Predation. Otherwise, I only have Martial Law and some Detain cards to deal with it. Theoretically, I could block with a whole lot of creatures, but that's rather unlikely. So I also don't want to board an Avenging Arrow against Rakdos after it has dealt 6 damage to me, so that just doesn't sound too good. I'm not going to play these because they are too reliant on me having anything, and he also has shown me Annihilating Fire. So the question is, do I board an Aerial Predation for the one flyer he probably has, or do I try to win like this? I'm tending towards keeping in the rig and not playing the second Accord. Yeah, the rig is just a good card, I think, and I'd like to see more of it. Alternatively, I could play Aerial Predation, but Spells and Combat Tricks seems like a better plan than Spells and Combat Tricks and situational cards that only deal with one creature in our opponent's deck. That was a close game 1, and we should have a rather good matchup, I feel. So, keeping this hand, of course. And we can start with the Guild Gate. There's no reason to have the Herald in play earlier, and I might actually want to go for the Griffin on turn 3, or even the Seller of Songbirds. So now we have our first decision here. If we drop the Herald, he has the choice to kill it, which wouldn't be bad for us because we have other options. So I'll just give him the option to kill the Herald. Depending on what he does here, we need to consider our options. I like to drop the Seller to block the Shredder, but it's not a great blocker for the Chainwalker. So alternatively, I could make a Centaur, but it's very likely that he has a removal spell for it. So that might not be the best idea. The problem is that everything I have costs 3, so I'm always going to do only one thing a turn, which means that if he is on Annihilating Fire and or destroy target monocolored creature, he's going to make my defensive plays, render my defenseless plays useless. There's also Rakdos to consider, which he can't cast if he needs to play a removal spell first. So I think I just need to rely on the Centaur to live, and that gives me time to play another creature. If he attacks with the Shred Freak, I basically know that he can deal with the Centaur. Okay. Or he has Rakdos. These are the two options. I think that if he has Rakdos, I'm basically dead. I could draw something like Martial Law, but that's about it. So I don't think I'm going to play around Rakdos, but rather try to minimize the damage I'm taking. And now he has the 6/6 flying trample guy, and I don't have all that much. So let's drop the Griffin and the Guild Gate and see if we survive next turn. So this is what he had last turn already, I guess. Augur Spree as well. This game looks like it's over. Yeah. Couldn't stop Rakdos from entering play at all. There was basically no chance for me to do that. So don't feel bad about this. I'm going to keep this deck as it is. Maybe Avenging Arrow, but once again, if he's smart about how he plays his Rakdos, this isn't even going to get it. So I'm just going to try it with the alternative plan of him not damaging me at all. And we do have 2 guild gates, but a great start, so... And a great start, basically. It's not like the guild gates are bad, it's just that they have a small disadvantage as well. It's an interesting idea to just drop the guild mage and bond it next turn, making it 4-4, and then trying to win the game with it. There is only the problem that it doesn't win the game until you reach 6 mana or we draw one of our token producing cards. It isn't killed by Annihilating Fire, and it isn't killed by Ultimate Prize, so I think I'm not going to do that, because now that he has a 2-1, it means that if he has an Annihilating Fire, he's going to need to play it on the Guild Mage or the Pegasus. And starting next turn, I'm going to be able to bond whatever he targets. So this should take some tempo out of the game, hopefully. And it was Stab Wounded, which is okay. I could have made it 4-4, but then it would be a 2-2, dealing me 2 each turn, so maybe that was for the better. I could attack for 1 here, but I don't think it accomplishes all that much to bring him down to 17. And if he has one of the many spells to deal with the Griffin, I'd rather have the Pegasus. And now it looks like we're going to try to use our bond to full effect if he decides to attack. No, he doesn't, which is a good idea because you run into so many things. The question is how we continue playing against this card, but I'm not willing to show him the bond at this point. The card that could punish me for that is his Rakdos, basically. Okay, now I don't want to take any damage, so blocking Cobble Brood is an easy play. The problem is if I block the Thug with 2 Centaurs and he has something, then all of them die, basically. He could have any of the instances he's shown me. So maybe it was a mistake not to play this last turn, but I really didn't want to show him the last remaining card in my hand. Now, I almost feel like a conservative block of Sunspire Griffin on Cobble Brood and jump blocking the Thug with Pegasus is my best option here. If I put him on Rakdos, I definitely have to block Splatter Thug. Otherwise, I would just decide to take the damage from the Thug. The thing is, I can't even kill Rakdos with the cards I have. So the question is that worth my Pegasus or not? Or do I just go down to 15 and not care about anything? Could also block the Brood with the Griffin. But if he has Rakdos, I really want both of my creatures and start to make them larger. Maybe draw on a giant growth or something. These are the things to consider. I don't think I'll be able to not take any damage for the remainder of the game. So I'm hoping that he doesn't have Rakdos at this exact moment. And that looks like it might have worked. And now my shields are up. Or not. Okay, that means Swift Justice has to leave my hand. Okay, that's interesting. So now my two centaurs can easily block here, and then if he has an ultimate prize, we get him with Calm Bond. So I don't really know who's the first creature actually. I suppose this would be the first one. So if I had known, I would have Calm Bonded, I guess. Or maybe I should have Calm Bonded anyway. There wasn't that much of a reason to not make both of them 4/4. Yeah, that was played pretty badly because I was confused and didn't know which creature was stacked. If he has a removal spell, he has to try to kill the centaur at some point, because otherwise, here if he can kill the centaur, then he's going to do it to also get the Pegasus. So that's interesting because it allows me to save the centaur actually by giving it 2+1/+1 counters. Then I have a 5/5. Alternatively, I can make the Pegasus a 3/5 flyer. I feel like a 5/5 is better than a 3/5 flyer, but it's a little less reliant because I make this 5/5 and then he makes it a 9/1, and then I have to hope that he only deals 3 to the Pegasus and nothing else happens. This is basically how it looks like. If he has another instant removal spell, it's bad anyway, so I'm going to go for the 5/5. That was a great draw because it means that we can attack without being afraid of Rakdos happening anytime soon. And we might have the Rakdos deck under control here. It's going to be difficult to turn this draw into an offensive one, but time should be on our side on 15 life, and we do have cards like Collective Blessing that we can draw. Okay, there it is. So I decided not to make the token because I wanted to have the option to block and then make it, but that's actually not a bad thing. I will just attack for this turn, and then I can go on the offensive next turn. Especially nice because I can attack with this for 3 and then still have a 6/6 blocker. Even Traitorous Blood isn't the end of the world here. Don't know what he has. Okay, he's getting rid of my 8/8. That's unfortunate, but it's not a problem either. So we just beat down. We won't be able to prevent damage to us anyway, so let's bring him down to 1 and then see what he has. Looks like that was enough. Collective Blessing pulling its weight. See you next round.